Hello and welcome to Alchemist Swim. I am Alchemist Jen and I've got quite the hook for you today. Today's whim of the day is to take this yummy fiber and make it into braids. Huzzah! So here we go. Yeah, so today I finished fluffing all fiber. It was fun. Now I'm going to make it into braids. So essentially making a crochet chain, and that's it. So got my hook, little slip knot there, and then just pull, 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 pull. I feel like I'm doing like an exercise video, a rowing action or something. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. So yay for hooking. So it'll give us a different view of the fiber because we'll see it all stretched out in the braid as well. So it goes pretty quick, thankfully. Nice and easy. Beautiful, beautiful. So today we're doing this. Just do probably 4 braids, work through it, show them off, show the variation between a 1 color dye and a 4 color dye in a braid. So pretty awesome, loving it. Yay for fiber. There's 1 goodness, 2 goodness. Kitty's kind of wandering. It's my good boy, my good boy. I'm revering him today. Oh well, I'm weird, I know this. We probably already figured this out. You know this, you're here. That's your first time. You've already figured that out, right? Right? I think so. Alrighty, so here we go. This is the red color. It's split a little bit, but I think it'll still work for its purpose. So yay. Yay for fiber. So I have to figure out how to get it to its destination, but that we figured out soon enough. Wish you could sometimes just magically transport things. That would be really cool. For people, I would like to be magically transported someplace sometimes. If it meant that I showed up all in one piece. If I was missing something every time, I think that that would probably get old. But I might not remember it, so that might be okay too. Looking good. Alright, braid 2. Boink, boink. Hi, bud. Wanna say hi to the people? Hey, people. Go, kitty. You're so cute. Yeah. Yeah. You're sleepy. Mister, I just want to be pet. Give me all the attention. Dental surgery a week ago. I think he's looking pretty good. He also just really wants to cuddle all the time. Yeah. And cuddle butt. You're so pretty. So, got a little buddy. At least he felt up to coming to visit while I was filming today. It's a good thing. Oh boy. You sit next to me? You sit on the fiber? Yes. This is a very cat involved household. So yes, fur will get into fiber and onto yarn. That's just how it goes around here. So I'm hoping that it doesn't, you know, go to places where people are allergic, but you know, it's really hard to keep cat fur off of fiber, especially when you have one like this that gets involved in all of it and is helpful. So that's just my take on the situation. Alright, keep on hooking. Alright, so this one is a gradient for felting foxy things. So it was asked for certain colors. So I did my best with what I had dye-wise to try to anticipate how I would get those colors. So I had requests for, I think it was what, orange, rust, chestnut, and brown. So I used the dye colors of monarch orange, Cabernet, which ends up being that kind of a purpley brown color, which I went for chestnut, and then the red was Cabernet, and then I had a brown, a teddy bear brown. So those are the hues that I ended up with. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous color set. So hopefully that will be able to be successfully used for a felted creature. So as I'm processing the process for dyeing fiber, you know, I'm contemplating, you know, how certain fibers end up so flat compared to the process that I'm using. It's just like one color and it's like one tone of that color versus my hand dyed techniques are very tonal. So I'm just kind of contemplating what that means, how that impacts my dyes, and then also the intended use of said dyed fiber or yarn or things. So just kind of running that through my head, trying to figure out how I could potentially get more consistent colors. I think a lot of it just depends on the dye itself and how it wants to spread within the fibers. So some of mine, even though I did them the exact same way, the dyes themselves split differently if they're composed of multiple hues to make that color, or they kind of clumped in areas on the surface of the water so that it adhered to the area, like certain areas more than others, because the way that they kind of hung out in certain areas. So I can see that in just like the intensity bits. So even if I stirred them and moved the dye around, I'd have to continually do that for the rest of the time that it was heating. But then you also lose heat if you were to leave the pan cover off because it's a rectangle. So I chose to you know, let it kind of go so I could maintain that heat, so I could get the heat for the right amount of time so that the whole thing would set. So in that, I ended up with a bit of a trade-off in that it would kind of pull in certain areas. So that's kind of how that part went down. This one specifically split. So just interesting just to see how it all deviates. And then these were done in the same pan, but I definitely got some different results, which is always fascinating. I love it. So this one, so you can kind of see them side by side. I mean, they definitely look like they're in the same pan, but this one ended up much darker than this one, for instance. I think earlier in the braid, this one had more variation throughout, and then this one, I'd say, was a little bit more. It feels more like it stayed within the quarters of where the dye went. So you can feel the distinct color there, distinct color there, distinct color there, and a distinct color there, compared to this one, which seemed to meld a little bit more. Some of this one ended up a little bit up here, and so it's just fascinating just to see how water as a vehicle for the color and the hues will change that. I also noticed that depending on the burner, so I use both of my little areas that I have for heating, the burners themselves, the heat sources tend to operate a little bit differently, so they're not always at the same rate. So I might have one area that's going to heat up faster, so that dye interaction is going to be different than at the top of the pan compared to the bottom of the pan. So so that's just something I want to look at, you know, going forward, getting something that is more consistent, heats up faster. So getting like a one pan warmer setup. So for hotel pans, like a Winco, that would allow it to steam underneath this hotel pan, so the steam would have consistent heat throughout. It also heats up faster and more consistently because you're also having more surface area that heat is kind of generating through. So when you have burners, I'm just like going on about this whole thing, burners are going to be localized between where the burner is, so the areas that don't have the burners aren't going to get that heat. So you have really limited pockets of where the bubbles are happening. And then, so having something that's more consistent would give a more consistent dye interaction, being able to heat it up faster, but also the heat variations would not be as extreme. So, yay for thermodynamics and being a nerd and appreciating those things. So those are things that I'm experiencing. And it's all fine, you know, like there's nothing wrong with any of that. How I have to set up to dye, there's nothing wrong with it. So I can just improve it if I want to invest in it. I think that's pretty fair. So right now I'm very happy with my setup. I don't have the need to modify it at this point. So I'm just gonna keep going with what I got and just see what I get. That makes sense. So that's the whim of the day. Fiber, I need to braid up some more. I've got several more to do, but that won't take too long. And then I also have to make tags for these and invoice for the other one. So yay! How exciting. So I love fiber. I love doing fibery things, and it's really cool that I get to. And thanks for watching me talk about it. And I will talk about it more another time, no doubt. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you where whim takes us tomorrow. Toodaloo.